The Grant McCasland era in the Big 12 at Texas Tech starts out with a bang as the Red Raiders head down to Austin and upset the number 20 Texas Longhorns. In today's video, we'll recap the game and what stood out most. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell if you want to stay in the know on Texas Tech men's basketball all year long. Only about 40% of the people that watch these videos are subscribed. Let's bump up those numbers a little bit and get it to 50 because I know damn well y'all are excited about Texas Tech men's basketball after that win over the number 20 Longhorns. And speaking of that, like the video if you think Texas Tech men's basketball simply owns Longhorns basketball. I mean, it's the truth, right? When you look at some of these numbers, and we'll talk about it here in a little bit more in depth here in just a little bit, but like the video if you think Texas Tech men's basketball simply owns Brock Cunningham and the Texas Longhorns men's basketball program because, well, there's stats to back it up, but we'll get there in a second. I digress. Let's talk about the game on hand last night at the Moody Center down in the state capitol. The Red Raiders won 78-67 and got their first quad one win of the year. They were led by Pop Isaacs with 21 points, and Warren Washington had 15, as well as Joe Toussaint with 15. Chance McMillian was great last night. He had 11 points, was tied for the team lead in rebounds with 5, and as a team, the Red Raiders shot 46.7% from three. I've talked about it multiple times here on the channel. The number to know in terms of Texas Tech competing and giving themselves maybe another tier or two chance to win a basketball game is 35% from three. If you're shooting over 40% from three, just skyrocket those chances with the amount of good shooters you have on this roster. And the crazy part is this, when it comes down to that 46.7%, you think a guy like Kerwin Walton, who is one of the most efficient players in all of the Big 12 would score what, 10, 12 points in this game? No, he scored 0. That shows you everybody stepping up. And Kerwin, he was a positive in this game. He made a positive impact on the defensive end, spacing, and had a couple of hockey assists as well in this one. Texas Tech shot 52.8% from the field as a team, and the Red Raiders actually led this game for 26 minutes and 42 seconds, while the Longhorns led for less than 10 minutes in its totality. Now, here's where the Longhorn fans get upset about, hey, like the video if you think Texas Tech men's basketball owns Texas basketball. It's true. Okay, it's simply true. Listen to these numbers. The Red Raiders have won 5 of the last 6 games in Austin. It's just Texas Tech South at this point for Texas Tech men's basketball. Also, the Red Raiders have won 11 of the last 16 matchups between the two schools. I mean, what are we doing here? This isn't a rivalry. Texas Tech just owns it at this point. If we're talking about strictly the hardwood, I mean, they have done a phenomenal job. And from the jump, you could tell this team, specifically on Saturday night down in Austin, was focused and willing to make adjustments on both ends of the floor and play games that they really haven't played a lot of. And then they totally flipped it from the first half to the second half. In the first half, Texas Tech was more focused on back to the basket, really trying to see over the defense and maybe a cross-court pass and really just trying to get down onto the block and go from there. In the second half, it was pick-and-roll basketball at its finest, and Joe Toussaint, a guy that we'll talk about here a little bit more in just a second, was phenomenal at dictating the pace and steering the ship and navigating the ship in the right direction and creating space for the Red Raiders shooters like Chance McMillian from deep to allow Texas Tech to pull off the upset down in Austin. I don't know if we should call it an upset at this point. Again, 5 out of 6 down in Austin, 11 out of the last 16. I don't know if it's an upset just because Texas has a 20 next to their name. I don't know. Anyway, I digress. Like the video if you were excited about Grant McCasland. If you didn't like it already just because Texas Tech owns the Longhorns on the hardwood, like the video if you just are really excited about Texas Tech having the right guy as their head coach, because it is very clear that they do. And I don't want to get ahead of myself. I know it's only 15 games in, not even at this point for Texas Tech, but they got the right guy. Grant McCasland is the right guy. And let's talk about a little bit more why he's the right guy. It's one game. I get it. But there's a lot of things that we've seen over the course of even just non-con going into the Big 12 setting now that really have me feeling, okay, again, Texas Tech got the right guy in Grant McCasland. The biggest one is this. Tech is simply unafraid to make in-game adjustments. Perfect example was last night against the Longhorns. In the first half, as I mentioned, they were more focused on getting the ball down to the block, back to the basket type stuff. Then they completely 180'd the Longhorns in the second half, and it worked to perfection. Defensively, they were all over the place, okay, switching things. And then they'd go into a hybrid zone look, pressure, full court. Doesn't matter. They're unafraid to make adjustments in game and really create headaches for the opposing team. And Grant McCasland is at the forefront of that. You got a guy like Dave Smart. You got Barnwell in there as well. You've got multiple guys with high-level experience, albeit maybe not at the Power 5 level, but guys that have simply won basketball games. And that is the biggest compliment you can give a coach. He is a winner, and that is what Grant McCasland is. He will have Texas Tech competing in virtually every game that they play in. And that is something that you just want as a head coach. That's what you want in your head coach is, hey, let's realistically say they're not going to win every game. Let's not get ahead of ourselves and say that, but they're going to compete in every game, and they're going to find ways to compete in a multitude of ways, whether that's hunkering down on the defensive end, run and gun on the offensive side, pick and roll, whatever it may be. We've seen Texas Tech win basketball games, and even just last night in Austin, where they literally played two very different styles of offensive basketball and won the game. It was just beautiful to watch. It really was. All right. One more time, let me get this down here. Like the video if you think Texas Tech men's basketball owns Texas men's basketball. I'm just saying, got a few more points, but I'm going to let that run at the bottom of the screen as well for a second. The Red Raiders create space at a really elite level, and they do so offensively in ways that I don't know what the counter is for some teams in terms of the double stagger screens, the delayed screens, the pick and roll, because again, you have a guy that is perfect as a lead guard in a Grant McCasland offense in Joe Toussaint. That's not shade towards Pop. That's not shade towards Lamar. The experience and the patience that Joe Toussaint brings allows guys, games around him to really elevate. Perfect example, Chance McMillian, Pop Isaacs, right? Those guys are shooting really, really well over the past 5 games. Chance McMillian shooting over 40% from 3 over the whole season. Pop Isaacs is shooting over 40% from 3 over the past 5 games and is the leading scorer, damn near averaging 17 points a game. That's partly because of Joe Toussaint taking the pressure off of being the primary ball handler for those guys and allowing them to do what they do best, which is create open looks, run off staggered ball screens, and just be ready to catch and shoot the basketball. He's done a phenomenal job at it. I'd be remiss not to mention Warren Washington. His presence last night at the rim really dictated things on the defensive end. Now, did he have as many block shots as he wanted to? No, but he impacted the game in a way that you could visibly see in a multitude of ways, whether that was the big for Texas going out closer to the perimeter instead of staying inside the lane, impacting shots by smaller guards where he didn't block it, but he impacted it to the point where Tech would get the rebound, get out in transition. He is a pivotal player for Texas Tech moving forward, as we all know. But this was a true team win for Texas Tech. One of your better players in Kerwin Walton, as I mentioned previously in the video, had 0 points, but he was a plus player in this game. And I'm not a big plus-minus guy, but in a game like this where Kerwin only shot twice and still to be a positive player speaks volumes of what he was doing not only on the offensive end in terms of spacing, but defensive end in terms of making an impact down there as well. Just a phenomenal job by the Red Raiders down in Austin. What's next, though, for Texas Tech? Up next for Texas Tech men's basketball is Oklahoma State on Tuesday, January 9th. Y'all better go pack out the USA. They deserve it. This one's going to be a fun matchup. The first Big 12 home game of the year for the Red Raiders against the Cowboys of Oklahoma State. One more time, if you're excited about having Coach Grant McCasland and crew at Texas Tech and what they're building, simply like the video. I'm not going to ask you to like the video again in terms of the Texas Tech owning Texas. I just wanted to say that one more time. But I'm RC Maxfield reminding you, if you want to join the most engaging Texas Tech community here on YouTube and get updates on Texas Tech men's basketball all year long, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button to stay in the know right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel.